absolutely. As you know, I was a skeptic.
Yes.
I was a proud skeptic. And I studied it, learned about it, and I came away saying, okay, my opinion 5 years ago was wrong. Here's my opinion today. This is what I believe in today. I believe the opportunity today. I believe Bitcoin is legitimate. I'm not trying to say there's not misuses like everything else, but it is a legitimate financial instrument that allows you to have maybe uncorrelated, non-correlated type of returns. I believe it is an instrument that you invest in when you're more frightened, though. Right. It is an instrument when you believe that countries are debasing their currency, debasing their currency by excess deficits, and some countries are. I believe we have countries where you're frightened of your everyday existence, and if you have an opportunity to invest in something that is outside your country's control, then you can have more financial control.
Larry Fink's dramatic pivot from crypto skeptic to Bitcoin advocate didn't just raise eyebrows. It may have kicked off a new era in global finance. For the CEO of BlackRock, the world's largest asset manager, to give Bitcoin his full endorsement represents more than just a shift in tone. It marks a recognition that the financial status quo is changing, and Bitcoin, once dismissed as fringe, now stands at the center of the conversation. His recent statements are being echoed not just across boardrooms but also through investment strategies.
If you really look at the comments that BlackRock, Fidelity, many other people who are talking about Bitcoin on Wall Street, they're just repeating Bitcoin talking points. They're saying, hey, the debt's really bad. Hey, the dollar's being devalued. Hey, this thing is decentralized. Hey, this thing has sound money principles. Hey, this thing's outside the system. Hey, this thing is really valuable to people in international markets. Hey, Americans should really go and embrace this thing because there's only 21 million of them, right? All these things that they're saying, Bitcoiners have been saying for years. And so on one hand, you have Bitcoiners who have infiltrated into these organizations, and they're saying the same stuff that they were saying before they were in the organization. But two is they're true. And so you just need intelligent people to spend the time to actually do the work to look at this stuff. And then they come to the same conclusion. And that's why Bitcoin has been so successful and it continues to win in the free market. And so hearing Larry Fink or any other Wall Street executive talk about Bitcoin in this way is more so just the truth actually being kind of infiltrated into their organizations.
The shift isn't just about Larry Fink. It's about the ripple effect his stance creates. His support of Bitcoin serves as a permission slip for others in the industry, especially those who were quietly curious but reluctant to make a public move. Wall Street thrives on consensus, and Fink's endorsement lowers the barrier for others to follow suit. The idea that Bitcoin is just digital gold is being replaced with a more nuanced view that it's a defensive asset, an alternative store of value in uncertain times.
People are buying Bitcoin because it's a flight to quality. I think Jamie Dimon looks at it much more as a speculative tool. And that's no different than if you go outside of Wall Street and go into the market. Like, why is there a market here? It's because this thing is quote unquote controversial, right? There's a lot of debate around it. Is it going to go up? Is it going to go down? You need bears just as much as you need bulls to have that market and that liquidity. And so I think what you're really seeing is their public commentary. One is bullish, one is not.
That controversy fuels innovation. The fact that Bitcoin continues to be debated, even at the highest levels of finance, shows how central it's become. Fink isn't placing a risky bet. He's making a calculated move to be on the right side of a long-term shift. And he's doing it by acknowledging the big picture, one that includes runaway debt and the weakening dominance of the US dollar.
If we do not correct the situation, the dollar risks losing world reserve status, and it could be replaced by digital assets like Bitcoin. So it's not just, hey, we got problems, but now there's a potential solution. And so if people are going to show up to Larry Fink's door and say, knock, knock, BlackRock, $10 trillion in assets, largest asset manager in the world, I hear you on the problems. What's the solution? It sounds like they may say Bitcoin, which would be kind of crazy.
This isn't about chasing returns anymore. It's about protection. Hedging against currency devaluation, economic uncertainty, and a looming debt crisis. In that light, Bitcoin becomes more than an investment. It becomes insurance. That's why Fink compares it to gold, except it's more portable, more accessible, and in many ways more versatile.
I believe we have countries where you're frightened of your everyday existence, and if you have an opportunity to invest in something that is outside your country's control, then you can have more financial control. And so I'm a major believer that there is a role for Bitcoin in portfolios. I believe you're going to see that as one of the asset classes that we all look at. I look at it as digital gold, as I said before.
And yet, it's not just about ideology. It's about smart business. For asset managers, the risk of missing out on Bitcoin is now greater than the risk of getting in too early.
Is the strategy of a lot of these companies is they hedge. They're never going to take a full-on 100%, strong position without that hedge. And frankly, I think it's good business. I think that it is, good risk management, if you will. And that's why these people run these large organizations, is because they're very, very effective at what they do.
Fink's enthusiasm isn't reckless. It's calculated. BlackRock's embrace of Bitcoin isn't about placing a wild bet. It's about positioning the firm and its investors for a future where digital assets aren't optional. They're foundational. This strategy is deeply rooted in macroeconomic trends, and it's catching on fast.
Bitcoiners have been saying for years. And so on one hand, you have Bitcoiners who have infiltrated into these organizations, and they're saying the same stuff that they were saying before they were in the organization. But two is they're true. And so you just need intelligent people to spend the time to actually do the work to look at this stuff. And then they come to the same conclusion. And that's why Bitcoin has been so successful and it continues to win in the free market.
What's changed isn't Bitcoin. It's the people finally taking a closer look at it. From fringe developers to global financiers, the pattern is clear. Those who do the research often become believers. The momentum is no longer coming just from grassroots support. It's coming from the top down, from the institutions once seen as Bitcoin's greatest threat. What we've seen through Larry Fink's recent comments is nothing short of a paradigm shift. He's not just endorsing Bitcoin. He's reframing it as a viable solution to systemic financial risks. In doing so, he's giving cover to other executives and institutions that have been quietly circling the idea of crypto integration. This isn't about FOMO, it's about foresight. Fink's messaging touches on everything from economic instability to personal sovereignty. And as he puts it, Bitcoin is an asset for those frightened of their existence. That's not just financial commentary. That's a reflection of the deep uncertainty facing global markets and individual investors alike.
If you want to hedge hope, Bitcoin is not an instrument for hope unless you're hopeful you're going to make a lot of money on it. But I look at it as a vehicle in which you're expressing your financial acumen in something that you're more frightened of the world, you're more frightened of your existence.
So now the question is, if Larry Fink can change his mind, will the rest of Wall Street follow, or will they wait until it's too late? Let us know what you think in the comments below. And as always, thanks for watching.